Good afternoon. So we'll discuss development of today and the three main topics that we are going to discuss today is the recently observed India's 73rd Republic Day. Then India's rank in the Corruption Perception Index published by Transparency International, and in the bilateral issue we'll cover the relation between India and Israel. So three different domains that we are going to cover today. So coming to the first one, India celebrates its 73rd Republic Day. We all know that India became independent on 15th August 1947, and it took another more than 2 years to declare India as a republic. So Republic Day is observed on 26 January since 1950, because we commemorate this date as the Constitution of India as a whole came into force on that particular day. It has a historical precedence when in 1930 Indian National Congress decided to observe 26 January as Independence Day by Indians way back in 1930 when country was under British rule. But 15th of August was imposed upon us as our Independence Day by Lord Mountbatten. Fine, we don't have an option then. So it was on 15th August, the British left. 14th August, on 15th August, India became independent. But our desire to observe 26 January as India's Independence Day remain unfulfilled. Keeping that in mind, so our national leaders, they decided that we will observe this date in 26 January 1950. Okay, so after India became independent, it don't have a constitution. Fine, it don't have a constitution, so it was ruled by mostly by the Government of India Act 1935. It was the ruling principle. Okay, so we later decided that this day of 26th January will be taken as the Republic Day in our country. So after the country became independent, so we started drafting the Constitution of India. Okay, and that Constitution was adopted on 26 November 1949, which we celebrate or observe the Constitution Day. And on 26 January 1950, the entire provisions of the Constitution came into force. So we observe it as the Republic Day. Okay, so the whole region for observing 26 January Republic Day on this particular date in 1950, the Indian Constitution came into force. Hope it is very clear to you. Why it is Republic Day? Because Republic Day we observe in memory of the entire Indian Constitution coming into effect on 26 January 1950. That's when the Constitution is adopted, but when it is adopted 26 November 1949, but came into force on 26 January 1950 because way back in 1930, the Indian National Congress and the leaders, they decided to observe this at the 26 January, the Independence Day, which was not successful. So 26 January was observed as a Republic Day. Fine. So India became a republic, a sovereign democratic republic. And in a republic, what normally happens in a republic? In a republic, the head of the state holds an elected office. Unlike the hereditary rulers who rules generation after generation, but in republic, the head of the state holds an elected office. Fine. So India is a republic, or popularly called as a sovereign democratic republic. Fine. So sovereign democratic republic implies the country is sovereign. It is not under any foreign domination, foreign control, foreign direction, foreign dictation. Democracy means here the people are the ultimate authority. Government of the people, government for the people, and government by the people. Democratic. Ours is an indirect democracy, unlike the system in Switzerland. And republic, as it implies, where the head of the state holds an elected office. Fine. And commemorating Republic Day, we reaffirm our commitment to liberty, fraternity, equity across all society and among all our citizens. As mentioned in the preamble to the Indian Constitution, that declares the preface, otherwise known as the preamble to the Constitution, declares India as a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Fine. Initially, it is sovereign democratic republic, but sovereign, socialistic, and secular. Added subsequently. So it is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. And we promote liberty, fraternity, equality, and justice. Okay. So what do we promote? We promote liberty, justice, equality, and fraternity. Brotherhood. It is the freedom, it is the justice system, this is equality, this is the brotherhood. So in memory of that, since 1950, we are observing Republic Day. So India, as per the preamble, it reads India as a sovereign. India is sovereign. So let's see the just the previous one. Then we'll go to the previous. So sovereign. You have to mention something here, has been added subsequently. Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic. Sovereign means India is neither a dependency nor a dominion of any other country. And sovereignty, as you all know, has two connotations: external and internal. None from outside is above us. No one can dictate us. Similarly, none inside the country is above the constitution. So sovereignty in India implies both external sovereignty and internal sovereignty. So coming to next, for the added subsequently socialistic principles, democratic socialism we have adopted. Then we adopted secularism, where there is no official religion and all religion are promoted equally, patronized equally. Democracy is based on the doctrine of popular sovereignty, that each possession of supreme power by the people, where the people rules, and their representatives elected by the people in the election, they rule for a specific term. And last is republic, indicate that India has an elected head of called the president. He is the head of the state, elected by the people indirectly by the parliament and by the state assemblies. So republic implies this, and we in the preamble declare India as a republic. But working of the constitution for the last more than 70 years has brought some threat to Indian democracy. Although India has made a place for itself as one of the fastest growing economy in the world, it loses behind a lot in the name of growth. We emphasize on growth than on development. Two different things. Growth is a narrow concept. We have grown, but the parameters of development we have achieved much less. Development is a holistic approach. It is more wider than growth. Growth is purely economic sense, but development has a socio-economic dimension. So, although we have achieved growth in some segment, but our overall developmental parameters are lagging behind. Next come poverty remains the biggest challenge for present day India. It is more than 70 years. It is a long period of more than 40 years since we launched poverty eradication program with the slogan of Garibi Hatao during Mrs. Gandhi's period. Still, poor are there in the country. It remains the biggest challenge. It remains the biggest cause of our backwardness. There is a big divide between the rich and the poor. In a country like India, the rich are becoming richer and the poor are becoming poorer. This remains the biggest challenge. So, poverty remains a big challenge to our democracy. There is gender discrimination. Although in fundamental right, we allow equality, we prohibit discrimination on the basis of sex, caste, color. Still, there is discrimination among the genders. So there is a female ratio is comparatively less. Economic opportunity for women are comparatively less. There is disparity in wages, different wage for the same work for the male and the female. There is violence against the women, from domestic violence to violence outside. There is malnutrition. There is female foeticide. So this continues. Communalism and religious fundamentalism is another challenge. Although we declare ourselves as a secular country, still communalism and religious fundamentalism has grown alarmingly in our country. It has emerged as big threat to Indian internal security, progress of India, growth of India, development of India, and a peaceful India. There are many instances of communal violence. There are many instances of religious fundamentalism spreading in the country. One community attacking the other, destroying the property, destroying the life in the name of religion, in the name of communal classes. There is another challenge of regionalism that still remain. India, Indian Constitution, the very first article of the Constitution declared India as a union of state. India, that is Bharat. What Article 1 read? Article 1. India, that is Bharat, shall be union of state. Union of state. That means India has been divided to different states and union territories for administrative convenience. That is the only reason for dividing the country for better convenience of administration. But it still spreads. There is large scale demand of regionalism. From Odisha to West Bengal to Bihar to Maharashtra to Uttar Pradesh. Everywhere the demand for regionalism. And this regional awareness, regional consciousness has been aggravated by the emergence of the regional political parties. By the regional political parties. Because they want to survive, carry on their rule based on regionalism. They promote regionalism only to ensure their survival in power. They project themselves as promoting the cause of the particular region. That is what. Then continued feeling of inequality both among the within the states create a feeling of neglect, deprivation, and discrimination among and within the state. So be careful about these two terms. Both among the states, some states feel that we are being neglected. Some district in the states feel that we are being neglected. Like the example of KBK in Odisha and the Bimaru states in India. They feel that we are being neglected. We are being deprived. We are not being given that focus. Discrimination is practiced on us. This creates a sense of ill will, a negative feeling in their mind. Okay? And there is large scale use of money and muscle power in the election. Another challenge to democracy. Democracy affected by money and muscle power, by abuse by politicians, political parties. Although election commission monitor them, fix the ceiling, add that the criminals, people with criminal antecedent should declare it before joining the race for political power. Still, that remains a big dream to clean politics of money and muscle power. Many of the politicians have pending criminal cases against them. Still, they enjoy power. They are representatives. They sit in the parliament, the supreme law-making body in the country, and makes law, who are themselves unlawful elements. It's a big tragedy in our part. With all these things to the negative, still India runs, still India survives, still India progress, still India is able to present itself as a global power, as a role model for hundreds of countries in the world because the strength of our constitution. You know, in our periphery, so many countries have seen civil war, political instability, but India remain politically stable. India remain politically stable. But the major reason? Major reason is we have a constitution. Constitution, the supreme law of the land, has made us strong, made our country stable, made our country robust. Because all agencies, all institutions, they have never dared to violate the constitution. And whomsoever dared, he or she has been shown the door. History says this. I don't want to take the name. You all know when someone tried to misuse the constitution, wrongly implement it, the people of the country have shown that political party and that leader the door to get lost. Because the supreme law of the land, the constitution, has been given that sanctity. So what I want to say that the Republic Day, which is observed in memory of the constitution coming into force, is worth remembering because the constitution has made India what it is today. It has given it the most important thing, the political stability. That political stability has entered in whatever India has achieved today. What India has achieved today, it is because it is stable. It is stable. That's the reason for the achievement. This is the first news on Republic Day. And on this day, the are declared the country's civilian awards, Padma Vibhushan, Padma Bhushan, and Padma Shri awards. They are declared. This year, a number of eminent persons, both Indians and foreigners, have been awarded this Padma award. Along with that, a number of gallantry awards for the military forces, for the police forces are also declared. So this day is observed with much pomp and splendor in our country, and we remember that we are a constitutionally bound country. No one can ever dare to overrule our constitution. That is what the objective of this particular day that we observe. The second topic is another important one that is relating to India's ranking in the Corruption Perception Index published by Transparency International. Okay, corruption, the biggest challenge before humanity, is growing. There is a very popular saying. Earlier, there is corruption in some institution. Earlier, there was corruption in some institution. At present, corruption has been institutionalized. Try to understand the importance of what I'm saying. Earlier, there was corruption in some institution, and at present, corruption in India has been institutionalized. See its impact. Why it is being called so? Because the menace of corruption is growing in the country, growing and growing at a much faster rate. We are not worried. Practically, everyone want to get the benefit of corruption. The Corruption Perception Index, released every year by the Transparency International. Who releases? Transparency International releases a Corruption Perception Index. Overall, the Corruption Perception Index shows that control of corruption has stagnated or worsened in 86% of the countries over the last decade. That means it is growing. Corrupts are becoming more corrupt. Transparency International is an international non-governmental organization founded in 1993 at Berlin, Germany. It is a non-profit purpose to take action to combat global corruption with civil societal anti-corruption measures and to prevent criminal activities arising from corruption. Its most notable publication includes Global Corruption Barometer and the Corruption Perception Index, which is taken very seriously by everyone. The index ranked for this year 180 countries and territories by their perceived level of public sector corruption, according to experts and business people. It relies on 13 independent data sources and uses a scale from 0 to 100. A 0 is the highly corrupt country and 100 is the very clean country. Two things remember. 0, the country, so this is 100, this is 0. This is the midway. The country who are in this trend, corruption is more there. And the country higher in the ladder are less corrupt. So what is replied? What is reflected? More than two-thirds of countries, that is 68%, score below 50. That means below 50 are 68% countries. And average global source remains static, score remains 43. That means average global score is below 40. 43 is the average global score. That means it is definitely below 50. That means corrupt countries numbers are more. Since 2012, 25 countries significantly improved their scores, but in the same period, 23 countries significantly declined. That means some countries have scored better, but simultaneously, some other countries have also performed miserably in this particular score. Fine. This year, top country, that means who score from this level onward, who score is the upward, are Denmark, Finland, New Zealand, top 3, which score 88. Norway 85, Singapore 85, Sweden 85, Switzerland 84, Netherlands 82, Luxembourg 81, Germany 80. Are the top 10 countries of the world where corruption is comparatively less. Whereas bottom performers, South Sudan here below at 11th position, Syria 13th, Somalia 13th, remain at the bottom. Country like Venezuela, Afghanistan, North Korea, Yemen, Guyana, Libya, Turkmenistan. They have also done miserably in this year's performance, with Venezuela scoring 13 out of 100, Afghanistan 16, North Korea 16, Yemen 16, Guyana 17, Libya 17, Turkmenistan 19. Fine. India ranked 85 among the countries in the current index. In 2019, it was at the 80th place. In 2020, it was at 86th place. And this year, it was one rank less at 85. With a score of 30, except Bhutan, all India's neighbors are ranked below it. Pakistan dropped 16 spots in the index to rank at 140. The country's score means India's score remains stagnant over past decade. Some mechanisms that could help rein in corruption are weakening. Our country's score or position has remained stagnant in the last past decade. In this 80s we are not going beyond 80 because there are concerns over the country's democratic status and fundamental freedoms and institutional checks and balance are decaying in India. The big challenge. Otherwise, we might have performed well. Our rank might have improved. But due to some challenges, we are unable to. From the repression of opposition supports in Belarus to the closing of media outlets and civil society organizations in Nicaragua, the deadly violence against protesters in Sudan, and the killing of human rights defenders in Philippines, human rights and democracy are under threat around the world. Why those countries are miserably less in this index. Increasingly, rights and checks and balances are being undermined not only in countries with systematic corruption and weak institutions, but also among established democracies. Since 2012, 90% of the countries have stagnated or declined in their civil liberties score on democracy index. The global COVID-19 pandemic has also been used in many countries as an excuse to curtail basic freedoms and sidestep important checks and balances. And despite the increasing international momentum to end the abuse of anonymous cell companies, many high-scoring countries with relatively clean public sector continue to enable transnational corruption to the cell companies. Okay. Okay. The current way of authoritarianism is not driven by coup and violence, but by gradual effect to undermine democracy. This usually begins with attack on civil and political rights, efforts to undermine the autonomy of oversight and election bodies, and control of the media. So this is where the democracy is falling in many of the countries, and that is also affecting the score of the country in transparency, internal corruption perception index. So suggestions are also being given by this. So people's demand to end the victims' vicious cycle of corruption, human rights violations, democracy decline. People should demand their right, their governments. Uphold the rights needed to hold power to account. Restore and strengthen institutional checks and powers. Combat transnational form of corruption. And to address these fundamental fallings, to forge ahead together in a sustainable anti-corruption efforts, economic recovery strategy should address the fundamental fallings that have led to many countries' corrupt system. Corruption has been institutionalized in some countries that needs a change in the system, in the institution, so it can be checked and can be curtailed. Effective control of corruption and common prosperity can only be achieved through the engagement of informed people who are able to assemble freely, speak openly, and blow the whistle on corruption without fear and reprisal. People know who is corrupt, who is involved in corruption, but the system is suppressing the people's view. They are under threat. They are under pressure. They are under coercive authority. So they fear. In case they highlight corruption, there may be repression. There may be action against them by the authority, by the institution. That will ultimately lead to their misery. So they try to remain silent. And in many countries, with no anti-corruption agency or weakening institutions, should uphold the 2012 Jakarta Statement on principle of anti-corruption agency to create, like we have created the central vigilance. What is the anti-corruption agency in India? We have vigilance. See some agency in India, the vigilance. You have the CBC, Central Vigilance Commission. We have the Lokpal and Lokayukt. We have created. Still corruption is rampant in our country. But there are countries where no such institution exists. North Korea, Iran, many other countries. They would have created this institution. So they remain much behind in the corruption perception index published by the Transparency International. That is what. And the third topic will take about the diplomatic relationship between India and Israel. You know, after India became independent, we started following our foreign policy. And the foreign policy is the tool or the instrument through which we establish, maintain, and expand our relationship with other countries of the world and with other international institutions. Because we are living in a community of nations. No country can live in isolation. It's not humanly possible right now to be in isolation. Maintaining relationship is a very traditional art and craft. Since the day of monarchies to democracy. Even that was in existence before the modern state system came into operation. In mythology, we have the ambassadors, popularly called the dutas. Their principle in statecraft, in foreign relationship. In ancient India, so Asaka sent his son and daughter as ambassadors to preach Buddhism. In mythology, Ramayana and Mahabharata, these dutas were exchanged with the countries to pass on informations of one kingdom to the others. So country have good relationship. So in that way, we follow our foreign policy and we have a foreign ministry. And Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India or independent India, has left a deep imprint on our foreign policy. And successive government, to whichever party they belong, they have carried on the foreign policy of the predecessor. That's why India is able to maintain it. So coming to this, we are going to discuss today about the India and Israel relationship. Although Israel was created as a Jew state by taking away territory from the Arab world, dividing Palestine in the post-Second World War period. So the creation of Israel is itself a very controversial chapter in world history. Israel was surrounded by the Arab countries, were very hostile to it. But Israel was so powerful that it was able to maintain its survival with dignity, with pride, with authority, with force. And at present is one among the advanced country of the world. technologically, militarily, living standard. It is worth noting that a country of people, the people don't have a land, the Jews don't have a land. They ask for a land. The Allied power give them a land around Jerusalem. In hostile territory, they're implanted, but they are able to sustain themselves. So coming back to the chapter, although India officially recognized Israel in 1950, the two countries established full diplomatic relationship after more than 42 years. Recognized Israel in 1950, established diplomacy in 1992. Okay, India is among the 164 United Nations members out of 193 total membership. 164 have diplomatic relationship with Israel. Rest don't have. Fine. And in 2022, we mark the 30th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations with the two countries. Fine, because we established in 1992, and in 2022, the 30th anniversary year of establishment of our diplomatic relationship. And the logo was a commemorative logo was launched. It features the stars of David and the Ashoka Chakra from both the sides. The two symbols that adorn the national flags of both the countries and form the numeral 30 depicting 30th anniversary of the bilateral relations. So what are our area of domain of cooperation? From a mere $200 million in 1992, our trade at present is 4.14 billion, excluding defense, because we purchase a huge defense requirement from Israel. The balance of trade is in India's favor. That means India exports more than India imports from Israel, except the defense equipments. Trade in diamonds consists of 50% of the bilateral trade. India is Israel's third largest trade partner in Asia and seventh largest globally. Israeli companies have invested in Indian energy, renewable energy, telecom, real estate, water technology, and focusing on setting up R&D centers in production units in India. India is also in dialogue with Israel for concluding a free trade agreement that we have signed with many other countries, and we are also right now negotiating an FTA with Israel. That's for your information. So all this to the credit, the major issue or the major domain of relationship is defense. India is the largest buyer of military equipment from Israel, which in turn the second largest defense supplier to India after Russia. Indian armed forces have adopted a wide array of Israeli weapons systems over the years, which range from Falcon, AWACS, the Heron, Searcher 2, and Harpoon drones to Barak anti-missile defense system and Spider quick reaction anti-aircraft missile system. All sophisticated equipments Israel has handed over to us. The acquisition also includes a host of Israeli missiles and precision-guided munitions like the Python and Derby air-to-air missiles to Crystal Match and Spice 2000 bombs. So what we get from Israel are the latest and sophisticated weapons required for the defense modernization of India. They all helped India in its defense modernization. Okay. At the 15th Joint Working Group meeting on bilateral defense cooperation, countries agreed to form a task force to formulate a comprehensive 10-year roadmap to identify new areas of cooperation. Excuse me. The new areas where they can cooperate in the coming 10 years. They have cooperated in defense. They have cooperation in agriculture. They have cooperation in high technology. In May 2020, 3-year work program and agreement for development of agricultural cooperation was signed. The most important agricultural technology used in India, which we have imported from Israel, is the drip and sprinkler irrigation system, where we ensure optimum utilization of water for agricultural purpose. That is what the sprinkler system or the drip irrigation system, which is one of the sophisticated irrigation system widely being popularized by the government, we have imported from Israel, and we want to expand more in this agricultural domain between the two countries. Recently, experts from India and Israel deliberated on widening the scope of India-Israel Industrial R&D and Technological Innovation Fund at its 8th governing body meeting. They approved 3 R&D projects worth 5.5 million USD and suggested measures to create a broader India-Israel collaborative ecosystem in science and technology. 14F is a cooperation between two countries to promote, facilitate and support joint industrial R&D projects between companies from India and Israel to address the challenges in the agreed focus sector. That means area of science and technology. Because Israel is one of the technologically advanced country in the world. Israel has also joined the ISA or International Solar Alliance, floated or founded by India at the Paris Climate Agreement. Where America joined, Israel joined, many developed countries are joining as members to get the benefit of this alliance. It is an alliance of sunshine countries, a future power alliance, sustainable generation of power, clean energy initiative. Israel has done it. So this demonstrates the dimensions of cooperation between the two sides, India and Israel. So defense is a major domain, technology is another major domain, agriculture remains another domain, and latest technology, high technology as it is called, is being focused for cooperation in research and development between India and Israel. Friends, these 3 topics from 3 different domains have exposed you to the different warning issues that are important for your exams with background. And after discussing this, let's have discussion on some important questions of the day. Expenditure limit for candidates for Lok Sabha constituency are recently increased based on the recommendation of the committee constituted by the Election Commission. Because in 2020, in the year 2020, the ECI, Election Commission of India, has constituted an expert committee to recommend in the revision in the electoral expenditure of the candidate to the parliament and assembly. Because inflation is there, cost of some materials are growing. So petrol price has grown off or gone off. So these need to be reflected in the electoral expenditure. The committee has recommended to increase it, so the government has increased it. So what is the present increase for the Lok Sabha seat? Okay, the earlier one was from 54 lakh up to 70 lakh, depending upon the size of the state, which has been increased to 70 lakhs to 85 lakhs. 70 lakhs to, 95 lakhs. Not 85 lakhs, 95 lakhs. Depending on the size of the state or different states. This will be different by the election commission. Similarly, the assembly segment, it has been increased. Earlier it was from 20 lakhs to 28 lakhs. 20 to 28 lakhs. And it has been increased to 28 lakhs to 40 lakhs at present. This is as per the recommendation of the Election Commission of India. The next question. Consider the following statement regarding interest coverage ratio. The interest coverage ratio is a debt and profitability ratio used to determine how easily a company can pay interest on its outstanding debt. For calculating interest coverage ratio, a company's earning before interest and tax is considered. Generally, a higher value of interest coverage ratio shows greater ability of a company to meet its interest obligation from earning. Obviously, three are right. How a company is able to pay the interest on the debt it has taken from the market, from the companies or from the financial institutions. If there is a higher value of interest coverage ratio, that means the company is in a position to pay back its interest obligation from its own earning. That proves the confidence or the financial strength of the company. So here the answer will be D, 1, 2, 3, all are right. Coming to 3, LPG price, liquefied petroleum gas price in India determined using an import parity price formula based on international product prices. Obviously, because we import around 85% of our LPG requirement from abroad. So international price products matters. The Saudi Aramco, a public petroleum and natural gas company in Saudi Arabia, LPG price, the price fixed by the Saudi Aramco. The ocean freight charges because they are transported through the freights, through the sea routes. Custom duties and port dues are all factors into the import parity price formula. They are all added to reach at the price of the petroleum. So natural gas. So both 1 and 2 are correct. So answer will be C. Fine. Then with respect to various computing environments and their applications, which of the following pairs are correctly matched? Cloud computing is the building database of all AI-based applications, all artificial intelligence-based applications. Also, the database is built in cloud computing. So, this is right. Coming to edge computing, municipal solid waste management, and fog computing, autonomous vehicles. So, there are wrong options here because edge computing is distributed computing framework. Edge computing is a distributed computing or processing capabilities. It brings processing capability close to the end user and source of the data. It's not regarding solid waste management. Then coming to fog computing, it is extending cloud computing to the edge of an enterprise network. It is also not autonomous vehicle. So only option 1 is right as the matching is concerned. So A is the right answer. Then the last question. Okay. With which of the following Central Asian countries are border China? China, Tajikistan border China, Kazakhstan border China, Kyrgyzstan border China, but Turkmenistan is not sharing. So 1, 2, 3. The right answer will be 1, Kazakhstan borders, Tajikistan borders, and Kyrgyzstan borders. But Turkmenistan is not sharing. You can see the map. Is not bordering or sharing border with China. Answer will be C. Friends, hope that our session is useful, informative, and after going through the session, you must be having a clear idea on the topic that we have discussed, and you are exposed to some of the questions. Most important is the topic to which you are exposed and the elaboration, which will make you very clear on the concerned topic. So any questions come from those three things are the topic that we discussed today. Let's have a remind of the things. So let's go to the first. What we discussed today? We discussed three topics. First is India celebrates 73rd Republic Day. India's rank in the Corruption Perception Index, published by the Transparency International, and India-Israel relationship. Three are very important. So please have complete idea. Supplement to the class through your own reading and start writing answer to these things. So you will be able to write, because three are important chapters, important topics for you. You can prepare on this to face any sort of questions being asked in the examination for you. Thank you for watching. Thank you.